Clues to revealing true intentions. Eyes. The eyes are definitely the windows to our soul. Don't you agree? When we see a person for the first time, our gaze automatically goes to their eyes, looking, searching, and wondering who this person is. In all honesty, it is easier to evaluate a person's heart than their mind. We can effortlessly pick up on our friend's mood or sense why our partner has dismissed plans to meet, even without them speaking a word. How do we know this? How do we know what is going on in their heads without even speaking a word to them? For close friends, our partners, brothers, sisters, and family members, we just know simply because we grew up with them or because we've known them for a considerable amount of time to know what floats their boat, so to speak. But how do we get this special access to the human mind towards acquaintances or your colleagues? Recent research tells us that looking at people's eyes is one of the ways to get in touch with the human mind. Hence the phrase, "I can see it in your eyes." It is definitely poetic, and that's why you see it in so many music lyrics. While it's all beautiful and romantic, the truth is that the eyes can tell a lot about a person, because while people can somehow hide their emotions and check their body language, they can't change the way their eyes behave. How does the language of the eyes work? When studying a person by looking in their eyes, firstly, you need to do it subtly and not stare into their eyes. You need to maintain eye contact in a friendly manner, and when you have established this, look into the changes in the pupil size. A popular study published in 1960 says that the wideness or narrowness of pupils reflects how certain information is processed and how the viewer finds it relevant. The experiment was conducted by psychologists Polt and Hess from the University of Chicago, who analyzed both female and male participants when they looked at semi-nude images of both sexes. The study showed that female participants' pupil sizes increased in response when they viewed images of men, and for the male participants, the pupil sizes increased when they viewed images of women. Hess and Polt in subsequent studies also found that homosexual participants looking at semi-nude images of men, but not of women, also had larger pupils. This is no surprise at all, because pupils also reflect how aroused we are. Women's pupils responded to images of mothers holding babies. This goes to show that pupil sizes do not reflect how aroused we are, but also how we find a piece of information relevant and interesting. This idea was brought forward by Daniel Kahneman, who led a study in 1966. Kahneman is now a Nobel Prize-winning psychologist. His study required participants to remember several 3 to 7-digit numbers, and participants were to recall it back after 2 seconds. The longer the string of digits was, the larger their pupil sizes increased, which also suggested that pupil size was also related to the information that the brain was processing. In looking for clues in the eyes of a person, the first step is to know what that person is thinking and to look deeply in their eyes. Apart from the processing of crude information, our eyes can also send more sensitive signals that other people can pick up, especially if they are extremely intuitive. Another study conducted by David Lee began by showing participants images of other people's eyes, and he asked them to determine what kind of emotions this person was experiencing. This researcher from the University of Colorado found that participants could correctly gauge the emotions, whether it was anger or fear or sadness, just by looking at the eyes. The eyes also have the ability to reveal much more complex phenomena, such as whether a person is telling the truth or if they are lying. For example, Andrea Webb conducted a study in 2009 which had one group of participants steal $20 from a secretary's purse, and another control group was asked not to steal anything. This research, led by Webb and her colleagues from the University of Utah, showed that pupil dilation gave away the thief. All participants were asked to deny the theft, and the analysis of pupil dilation showed that participants who lied had pupils that were larger by 1 millimeter compared to the pupils of participants who did not steal. Our eyes also have the capacity to become a good indicator of what people like. To learn to read the signs, you would need to look at the size of the pupil as well as the direction of gaze. Take, for example, someone choosing what they would like to eat at a restaurant. We are visual creatures anyway, so our eyes are most likely darting between choosing the salad or the cheeseburger. The other point to look into is decision making. When we are making a difficult decision, our eyes tend to switch back and forth between the different options in front of us, and our gaze ends at the option that we have chosen. By observing these little details of where someone is looking, we can identify which options they choose. Another way of studying this type of difficult trade-off is offering monetary bets to participants. A study conducted in Brown University by James Kavanaugh was when participants were asked questions that involved difficult trade-offs between probabilities and payoffs. Participants were paid based on their decisions. The researchers were kind that the harder the decisions were, the more the pupils of the participants dilated. As the choices got harder, our pupils also got bigger. The eyes also give away clues to if we experience something unpleasant. Another study on eyes and its reaction was conducted in the University of Washington in 1999. The painful simulation was administered to the fingers of 20 participants, and they were asked to rate this pain from tolerable to intolerable. The more intolerable the circumstances were, the larger the pupils of the participants became. Although pain is a very different feeling than looking at images of semi-nude people, it still showed a change in pupil response. This shows that pupil size correlated with the strength of feelings and whether those feelings were positive or negative. So if you want to know whether a person is feeling bad or good, consider the context and look into their eyes. So what does this mean in terms of nonverbal communication? Can we read everything just by looking at the eyes? Are the eyes the only signals we should concentrate on? The thing is, the eyes are just one of the indicators or signals that we communicate with. When making high-stakes decisions, such as whether a person is guilty of a crime, pupil dilation is not something you solely rely on to make a judgment. We should also look into context. That said, we are more perceptive to the body language of the people we always come into contact with compared to total strangers, simply because we can tell their regular facial expressions apart from the non-regular ones. To make better assessments of feelings, we need to look at various other evidence or elements of body language, and of course, context. Because people cannot change how their pupils behave, the eyes are often used as a source of information to help create a better relationship, simply because it enables us to empathize better. You may not be able to read a person's exact thoughts just by looking at their eyes, but it is still a good perspective to study body language and read people